This is a major thing that most entrepreneurs need to know if they're thinking about getting acquired, because a lot of wealth transfers through acquisition, right?
Mhm.
What goes into that? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Hustle. I'm Alex, your host and owner of the show. Today, honestly, this is probably one of my favorite episodes to do because it's been a long time coming. This is probably the first business I've ever seen go from inception, like actual inception, to acquisition, and be a part of that journey from an outside perspective and see it actualize. So today I'm here with Armin and Mac from NoDap. Should I still say NoDap, or should I say
You can say no to
You could say
whatever.
Node,
Yeah.
yeah, Node app.
as two people who built and sold the app in influencer marketing? Where do you see influencer marketing right now in terms of Armor come to you first and Mackenzie come to you after? In terms of where the industry is in regards to one, AI, and two, overall growth in the industry.
Well, like in regards to AI, that's an interesting question. So I think like there's obviously some renditions of like AI influencers, which are definitely going to take a pie, a fraction of like the overall influencer marketing spend in the long term. That's like pretty inevitable. In terms of like the current state, I think influencer marketing is actually one of those things that hasn't been as impacted by the recession, and so brands are still actively spending money on content creators to be able to generate demand, because a lot of like these D2C categories are demand driven in the end of the day, and so these brands need to spend more money in order to be able to attract customers in the time where demand is like relatively low on a macro level. And so you're not seeing like much. We're not in terms of like what I've seen recently. It's I don't think budgets are getting necessarily smaller, um, and I think like there's a lot of opportunity for creators.
Really? What do you think, man?
Yeah. I mean, I think we have to like just go back from when we started. Because like when we started, it was like we're talking like 2017, 2018. There was no like when we would tell people about influencer marketing, they would not really know what it is. So we kind of had to sell them on like the overall concept that they have to give money or food to like people on Instagram. And at the time, like there was not even stories, right? So it was like, so it was different. I feel like right now, people are already bought into the concept of influencer marketing. And oftentimes, like they understand what it is, or like they're trying to become creators themselves, but like they don't really know, for example, how to go about it. And that's where we kind of filled the gap there. In terms of, and then the thing is that also, there's also this thing where it's like, right now, I feel like most of it is concentrated in like most brands they go to like Instagram or like TikTok. But I feel like when it comes to like the future of it is gonna go across like more cross platform where it's like people they're gonna not necessarily seek for the influencer, but more for the communities that the influencers are part of. Because at the end of the day, like it's a distribution channel, and you want to go. It's like you can get, for example, like I'll give you like Kim K or something. But the thing is that like you don't know if like in terms of like our own community, right? It's like you don't know if it's like the right thing for you. So I feel like I feel like in the future it's gonna go more towards influencers, towards more cults, where it's like you're trying to advertise your product to cults of people rather than and like the person is the vehicle to allow you to go to the cult.
Kind of like the newsletter game right now,
Exactly. Yeah.
where everyone's subscribed to a newsletter, then the newsletter person goes and gets an advertiser for that. We were just talking about that offline.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I think like you're right. There's like a lot of ways to build out like more like closer connections with your community through things like newsletters, where you like own that list and you own those contacts, and like community where necessarily like a lot of like this a lot of like the value that you're providing your audience is not necessarily happening on social.
Most definitely. All right, I want to get into the main story. Firstly, because the people who don't know, Noda's acquired for what's been reported as $13 million, right? And what I loved about the story is, firstly, I got to see it up close and personal. and I want to get the background behind what really happened to make this happen, because it's pretty historic for two guys from Toronto. Walk me through, because you need to break it down for the audience, because I'm still not showing the reality of it. Me and Armin, one time, we're in what was it, World on Young?
Yeah.
World on Young, Young and Steels?
Yeah, it was
Young and Steels.
Yeah, some random office.
Office with pure drywall. Half of the office space was like separated, and then you could hear the rest of
That's so funny.
The rest of another office right behind the drywall. So half the time we were working, because me and Arm used to work together on the Growth Group, a while back. Man, I almost forgot the name. That's crazy.
Yep.
It's been a long time coming.
GG.
GG. And I pull up to the office, and Armin's like, yo, I got something to show you. I've been working on this thing. So I'm like, okay, what you got? Show me. He pulls up a deck of a new thing he's working on. It's called Node. And he's like, let me get to the next slide. Hits next slide. And he says, this is our users. On the slide is a picture of me. And I'm like, why does this guy have a picture of me on his slide?
This is like our ideal user persona. You know what I mean? So, like, it wasn't literally our users. It was like, I was like, Alex kind of fits, the way, Alex's avatar fits the persona for a Node user. And honestly, it was just like the first thing I was just looking for the first image that I saw. I might have been on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
It might have been something on my like device or something, but I just like paused. But I just wanted to like put something there, and it was funny because by coincidence you came through, and I was like, yo.
My bad, bro. Word.
But you were a good sport about it. Because now I realize now, like, I was kind of immature then, but now I realize that if I saw that shit, it would probably like trip me out. So
yeah, it was
I apologize.
No, but it was funny. It was funny to see, So what I'm curious about is getting this app off the ground, and getting a piece of technology off the ground, because from what I understand, you both aren't technical founders like that, But this is your second acquisition, if I'm not mistaken, because I think you had a Viva Jewelry before.
Yeah, I had a jewelry business that was acquired by Viva. Yeah, that was like a smaller business, and it was a e-commerce business, so completely different. That was like something I was able to muster up myself in terms of building out the actual site and the infrastructure.
Got you. Now, how the hell did you
This is our third, by the way, right?
Because Creator Loop as well.
There you go.
Yeah. I had to mention Creator Loop. That's another big acquisition.
Come on, bro.
No, that's a fact. Creator Loop is a good one too. But let's get into how you really built Node. Like, walk me through some of the key aspects of building out an app that gets acquired. Because with a company that gets acquired, firstly, you have to kind of remove yourself from the business and have it run on its own. So how did that process go for you?
Okay, so we had operated Node like before we got acquired. We'd raised about $1 million from investors, and we like operated that business for a few years. And so for us, like, we just sort of hit a crossroads where it was like, do we want to continue to build this business as is, or like, do we want to partner with like another organization to maybe move faster? And at that point, we like one of our investors, actually, and advisors, he worked in like the M&A space, and so I gotta give shout outs to him, Howard. He had some connections, and he was working with a firm that did M&A, and so they were able to make some intros for us. We actually got some meetings ourselves too, like doing outreach and stuff.
You're skipping across the story a little bit. Like, let's talk about like getting to the space where they could even see that, all right, this is in a proper space to get acquired.
Got
you know?
you.
So let's talk about like growing the actual app and growing the user base.
Yeah. You want me to give you your flowers?
What are you talking about? I'm not you're talking
You know,
about.
he's like, how did you? You know why? Because actually, because most people don't know this. You obviously were really like when we had sort of built the product and it was at a stable point.
Mhm.
We were really heavily invested in user acquisition, and then for like context, for the audience, obviously, you know, you helped us a lot when it came to building out sort of like that acquisition channel on the business side. So I'll give you your flowers there.
Appreciate that.
But beyond that, I think the product was really solid. Everyone who saw the product really liked it. Like shout outs to obviously Mac here, give him his kudos. Built a really beautiful product. And then the engineering team executed like really well. Like I said earlier, like we've gone through a lot of engineers, but in the end of the day, like we've had a really tight engineering team with like really good talent. Everyone who's worked with us has done really amazing things at Node and have also gone on to do really awesome things too. And so I think just like being able to execute, having like a decent user acquisition channel, and then some luck, I think just got us there.
Yeah, yeah. What about you, Mac? Like, what do you think are some of the things that really like, helped the app blossom during that time?
I mean, I'll give you your flowers too. I mean,
Appreciate it.
so a few things that helped. I mean, so there was one time where so I would say it's really about the growth, right? Because like I remember there was like one time I was looking at like the numbers and we had like 30 businesses. And then we started to like run some Facebook ads. And then like a few months later, we had like, you know, we saw the number go from like, you know, like from 30 to 200 to like 400, 600, 800. And then from there, you know, like we were able to learn a lot about our customers, get a lot of data on them. And then we're able to just make the product better just because of that. And then that kind of like, you know, like that's kind of like a feedback loop that like, you know, always improving. And then that led to, you know, like more investors, more attractions. And then I would say from there, when it came to the exit, it was this thing where it's like, okay, you know, like we've grown on our own, but like, can we grow faster, bigger if we have a partner that actually has like that has like, you know, like deep roots in the space. As well, and then that's when we, like me and Armin, we had that discussion and we saw that that could be an opportunity. And then our investor also came along, and he also saw that was also a good opportunity as well. And then we decided to like start a process, and then fast forward a few years. I mean, fast forward like I guess 18 months from when we started, we were able to get acquired, and then now we work with the new company.
Got you. So was it like a strict acqui-hire, or was it like a full acquisition process?
No,
it was a full acquisition process.
Yeah, it was a full acquisition process.
Yeah, it was pretty exhausting.
Pretty comprehensive and exhausting, I would say.
Why was it exhausting? Like, what goes into that? I think that this is a major thing that most entrepreneurs need to know if they're thinking about getting acquired, because a lot of wealth transfers through acquisition, right? What goes into that?
So, do you want to?
Yeah, I can go. I can just explain
Go ahead,
the
go ahead.
acquisition step. So, okay, M&A 101. So usually the way it works is that so you either get approached or you approach. So like I know. So like for us, for example, we're sending cold emails. You know, at the beginning, it's like, you know, it's like, how do you do this? But then because we had advisors, it was like we kind of like learned with them. But the things that even before that, you have to do like a 1-pager and a deck. And then you do outreach, and then sometimes what would also happen is that you do an outreach to a company, then they refer you to another company, and then they come to you. So it's kind of like, so it happens both ways. And then usually the way it works is that so you send them an email, and then they have to send an NDA to see more information. And then that's pretty much like the first step. The NDA is really the first step where it's like, okay, we're like somewhat interested. And then you talk to, I guess, the potential acquirer. and then you see if it's a good fit or not. And then usually the goal is like to get like a LOI, right? So like a letter of intent that we want to acquire you. And usually when you get the LOI, that's when you have like a non-exclusivity clause where it's like you cannot talk to like other like potential buyers. So like for us, the overall like outreach process, how long did it lasted? Like close to like a year? Like it was
The whole process was about a year.
the whole process was about a year, yeah. So it's like so then you get a bunch of NDAs, then you make a decision like who you're interested to get an LOI from, then you get a few LOIs,
Hold
and
on.
then sorry.
Is there a lawyer that's walking through this process?
There's like lawyers all over the place. Yeah.
Okay.
There's like we have our lawyers, they have their lawyers.
Got you. So this is like predominantly lawyers going back and forth while you guys are running the business.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
What ballpark, because I don't want you to expose your lawyers, but what ballpark should an entrepreneur be thinking about mentally if they're walking into this? Like, should it be like 10K, 20K, 15-ish?
It depends on the size of the transaction,
Okay.
but like probably no less than like 20, 30K,
Really?
even if you get like a homie rate.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Lawyers are just like unnecessary leashes. But
you have to go through.
Yeah,
it.
not
It's
unnecessary.
like,
Sorry, not unnecessary, but they're necessary
it's
leashes.
very necessary.
Necessary leashes is what I should
It's
say.
very,
Very
very
necessary.
necessary.
They're but you know what the thing is? It's like they do a lot of redundant shit, that they charge you money for, like for like being on a phone call when you're like negotiating on your own behalf, things like that. So you just have to have you have to be ready to spend for you have to have a budget, right, for that.
And the thing that's interesting is like the moment you think it's gonna end soon, it's like, oh no, we're 6 months away.
Wow.
So that was this thing where it's like, oh, we send the LOI, like we're like the letter of intent, like like we're gonna close in like 2 weeks, and then it's like, oh no, actually, there's like a whole process of like things that you have to do, documents that exchange of documents, additional negotiation.
Yeah.
In our case, it was another 6 months of like back and forth.
Sheesh.
And then you get the final agreement and you sign it, and then you're like, now it's done.
So now, how are your pockets during this time? So you're paying for the lawyer and running the business and like allocating money
It's
to both.
tough.
Yeah.
Oh, that's like a nerve-wracking period of time, because like you're spending a lot of money. There's also, don't forget, there's like the private equity or the M&A advisors that get you the deal. They also take a piece of the deal, right? So you have to consider that you pay those guys either like retainers or like retainer plus success fee combination, or one of the other, right? So during that time, like you're basically spending money on this. You could be like, again, like in our circumstance, like we actually had to cut costs because a lot of it is like you also want to run a lean business. You want to have like decent EBITDA when you're like reporting, right, during like the diligence process and so forth. So with that being said, like you're essentially making concessions in your business, and then you're sort of banking on like this acquisition going through. And then for us, like we also decided to like forego part of our salaries for like a certain period of time between like when like the deal was like about to close, and then that ended up actually taking, there was like a 2-month limbo period until the deal closed. So like like there's a financial toll, and there's also a risk element too, because like for instance, like we let go of some staff, we stopped fundraising, we're no longer in fundraising mode, now we're in like M&A mode. And so most startups, like they're not necessarily like cash flow positive, or like they're maybe breaking even, right, after you pay all your salaries and all that shit. So like I mean, if it doesn't go through, like you may have given up a lot, and you might even be in a position where you could like run out of money. So we got, again, like I said, like there's a huge element of luck as well that like we can't discount.
Yeah, I hear that. So now, are they assessing how good you're doing while you're draining money on lawyers? Is that how that works? So let's say you're spending money on lawyers. So they're assessing how your business is doing, and you're spending lawyers on negotiating the business deal while they're assessing how your business is doing.
Yeah, I mean, like we have it. Like the thing is, they understand that you're spending money on lawyers. Like it's a given.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not unusual or anything. And they have to like look at the business because like in the end of the day, they're making an investment decision.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing is like, yeah, it's like cumbersome, but it's not unusual.
Got you. Got you. What was the biggest thing that shocked you throughout this thing?
For me, I would say like we got extremely lucky with our investors. So if we had raised more money and for more investors, one, like we would have probably walked away with less, and then also, like we who knows if we would have got approvals from all those investors if we had other people that were less cooperative. Like our investors were really great folks, and a lot of like most of them are still along for the ride as are we, like because we're still invested in terms of like equity and ownership. So they're all like really cool, dope, brilliant people that were supportive, and like that doesn't always happen.
Mm. What does supportive versus unsupportive mean? Like, was it something that they weren't approving versus approving type of thing?
Yeah, they just signed all the papers and said, "Yo,
Go
you
ahead.
know, yeah, like Godspeed, guys."
Did you feel like they got the return they were looking for?
No, I mean not yet. Like maybe, who knows? Like, yeah, I mean, in terms of paper gains, yeah, but I don't think that was like the outcome they were looking for when they invested.
Mm-hmm.
In the end of the day, like when you're like a venture investor, you're not looking for like a 10x return. You're looking for like 100x.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like we have great relationships with all of them because
So,
I think we like operated with integrity.
most definitely. Now, I want to take a step back because one of the things you did is you raised money in a smart kind of fashion. You know, you had gone to Google. You had a whole bunch of different people that helped you raise money. Do you think it would be just as easy to raise money now as it is back then? Actually, let me ask Mac, what do you think about that?
In terms of, I mean, what, like for the same business or for something different?
Yeah, if you were to
or
raise money for Node now, do you think it'd be just as easy now as it was back then?
I mean, like right now,
Right now.
For Node, it would be
Yeah.
impossible for
Node?
Node.
it would be difficult.
Yeah, but for let's say a similar business with like similar traction right now,
Yeah.
what do you think?
Maybe. I mean, it depends who you raise from. You know, like you can raise from angels, and you could make it happen.
Mhm.
I mean, fundraising is a very nuanced thing. You know, it like I'll give you an example, right? Like if it's like, I don't know, like your fifth business, and you know you've exited like the
Yeah.
5 of them, and then you come up with the Node idea with the same traction, yeah, for sure, you know, because you have like the relationships, you probably have like, you know, a lot of like rich friends, and then they're willing to give. So yeah, you can fundraise. So fundraising, I would say it's not just about like the business you're operating, but it's also like your network too.
Well, that's the thing. So
Yeah.
if we were to do it, probably because we have like
Yeah.
a small success now. But if it was us like the same position as we were back then, now I think it's still possible. However, I think early stage rounds have become a little bit compressed because investors know that like you could do more with less engineers and with AI. So I think like I think like $4 million round then is like a $2 million round now. And I think
Yeah.
like $1 million round now is like a $500,000 round. $1 million round in 2022 is half of that
Now.
now.
I mean, it also has, that's true. And it also has to do with like the narrative of the day, right? Like, for example, 2021, That was like the creator economy, future of work. It was the COVID era. But right now the narrative is like different.
Yeah, depends on the theme.
So it depends on the theme.
The theme is really important, what you're working in.
Yeah.
But in general, the consensus is that you can do more with less now because of AI.
Yeah.
Got you. Now, on the topic of raising money, before we move off of this, you guys are part of like the Google for like Black entrepreneurs, something like that. Like, walk me through what was going on there, Matt.
Oh, like the
I'm not Black.
Just
like
for
in
the
terms,
record.
what do you want to know? I can tell you everything. It was a really great experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we applied, we got in. All the founders there were really, really sharp, like very, very sharp. And then we had a series of workshops with like, I guess really like with like pretty like good mentors, I would say. There was like a mentorship portals where you can access like people like Google, but I would say like there was also like a demo day too, and we get to talk to the founders and stuff. But I would say the thing that's like really good, I guess that stood out, that's the thing with this program stood out from the other ones, is like the alumni after the program is done, where it's like they organize like events, and like you go in and you meet like the current cohorts, and like they have events like all across the world, but they have events like in North America. For example, like I went to like an SF event at some point, and I met like new people, and then I went to another event in Montreal and I met like other people. So it's like they have a lot of like events and community run things like after the program is done, which is really valuable.
So now with Trump cutting back DEI and programs like that start ceasing to exist, what's your thoughts on that?
My thoughts? I would say I'm not like a pro DEI person per se, so I don't have an opinion per se. It's like I don't know. I don't think that Black people actually need DEI to do really well. So,
but the program we're talking about was like a part of Google's D&I initiatives.
Yes, it was. However, like to get there, like, because I would say like the Google like really came towards the tail end, like before the Google, we went through the Alchemist Accelerator, we went through Techstars, like
but
we've
he was
grown a
just saying you
business,
benefited from a DEI program. That's what he was saying.
I mean, the business didn't really benefit from any sort of DEI program, right?
Well, you did. Okay,
you see what I mean? It's like it was towards the really tail end.
We did get some benefits from the program, though.
What did we get?
We got like credits. We actually got tangible credits.
We could have gotten the credits without the program.
I know, but you still we still got connections. There was still some value that we received. You can't dismiss and say we didn't get.
No, I didn't say we didn't get any value from it, but relative to everything that we've had to go through to get there. Like it's like we didn't learn how to fundraise there. We didn't
we did a lot of
customers.
I know we didn't depend on it. I agree.
Yeah.
That's not what we're saying.
Like and then again, I love the program. The program. I'm just saying that like
I know we didn't depend on it.
Yeah, we didn't depend. Like if we I'll give you an example. In a world where we wouldn't have gotten the program, we would have been doing just fine.
So is your thought process that DEI creates dependence?
Oh wait, if that's my thought? Like wait,
is that your thesis?
Your thesis, because what you're saying is we didn't depend on it. We would have already gotten it.
No, it's more that like if DEI is about empowering minorities, I don't think minorities need to be empowered. I think minorities just can do really well on their own.
True.
Okay.
Like you don't need because oftentimes like DEI is seen as like, oh, we're gonna give brownie points to minorities. It's like we don't need that. Like
Gosh.
But anyway, then again, I love the program. It was great.
Yeah.
But like there's a lot of things that we had to go through to get there.
Yeah, for sure. And you've been in tech from very young. Like walk me through what was going on when you were was it 19? Were you getting scouted by Google or something like that?
19. Oh no. So what happened is that actually, I was in Waterloo and I started as like in accounting and finance.
Okay.
And then most of my friends in Waterloo were all in engineering and CS. So I started to go to a lot of hackathons with them. And then that's kind of how I discovered UX. Like they wanted someone to make their front end look good. And then I started learning design and I just fell in love with it. To the point where it's like, that's the only thing I wanted to do. Like I didn't want to do anything else but design. and then from there I got a few internships. So like I got one at this company called Overlap Associates. Shout out to Overlap. They taught me like, I mean, I did a lot of so actually, so the context is that most of the people that I worked with, they all had their masters in strategic foresight and innovation at OCAD. So like when I was there, I pretty much just like learned from all of these people. Like I learned a lot about business strategy, design thinking, systems theory, strategic foresight, to the point where it's like I feel like I kind of earned a master's degree when I was there. I did like a large scale project for UNICEF too, which was amazing. And then after that, ended up working at like Sandvine for like UX, and then around that same time, that's when like me and Armin we started to like do more stuff with Node, and then fast forward, I ended up working as a UX designer at Google, and then that's kind of how I got there. And then I did UX design at Google, and then
Got you. Okay. When did the Creator Loop start?
end of 2022.
Yeah, Creator Loop was something
Yeah.
we worked on internally at Node.
Yeah.
At some point, we were just making a sort of a bet on AI image generation when it was really early, using like the early models of Stable Diffusion, and then eventually that sort of like ended up becoming a product of its own that we were able to also sell to like a separate organization. Yeah.
All right. So you said that like it was just like a walk in the park. Like, was it the same kind of process to sell Creator Loop?
No, Creator Loop was also lucky. It's all luck. I'd say it's luck. Like, I don't know, thunder
Oh
strikes.
man, Armin, it was hard work. What are you talking about?
No. But the thing is, like, it was obviously there's a lot of work in building out the products and all that. But the thing is, the acquisition, I think it was also luck, because while we were building Creator Loop, essentially we realized that for context, or to provide more color around it, like we essentially built Creator Loop initially to generate images of like products, because we had brands on Node that were working with content creators to generate product photos. So like maybe we could help them with some AI to generate some of these images. So we went down this rabbit hole and eventually realized that like this sort of it was kind of weird, because we had to find a problem first. Usually you find a solution for a problem, but it was the other way around, because we had this really cool model that we had fine-tuned to actually generate images, and we couldn't find like a good customer for it until we stumbled upon the automotive industry. And so we realized that dealerships and manufacturers have a really hard time with getting content for vehicles, obviously because it's like large machinery, and like there's a whole like supply chain and all that stuff that has to be considered. So we started working with dealerships, and then eventually one of our sort of I think customers, because no, he wasn't even a customer at the time. We were kind of working together on an LOI. But essentially what happened was when we were doing our deal for Node, one of the conditions was that we also had to let go of the other business. And so we essentially one of these businesses that we had an LOI with for Creator Loop, the founder we built a really good relationship with, and then he ended up picking up Creator Loop and acquiring that business. And so that was really good, because it also helped us with like the lawyer fees and stuff like that we talked about, right? But it was cool because we kind of did it like a double acquisition to like be able to get rid of some of the IP that we had built around Creator Loop, but then also hold Node and like have a separate acquirer that now we're obviously working with as well.
So was the deal just for the IP, or was there like people behind it and teams, or was it just like to acquire the tech of it?
Yeah, it was just the IP, the tech. Like there was a lot of work that went into like the models, and then also like the building out the workflows. Like I said, we had a really badass team, and like it's not easy to get people to work on like AI. And so yeah, mainly for the IP. And it's also really niche too. Like it was really specific use case. And the reason I say lucky is because there wasn't like a lot of like buyers for that product. We found a partner that had a LOI for that was for their business that really needed that specific use case. And so they acquired it because it really fit their business like really well. It was just like it fit like a glove. So
Got you. Was that for like a life-changing amount?
no, not at all. No. No, I think it was just like again, it just helped us actually get through the acquisition more than anything.
Mm, interesting, man. So now, how does your view of acquisitions look now? Do you feel like you could easily buy and sell a company again, or does it feel easy?
No, it's not. I don't. Does it feel easy to you? It doesn't feel easy.
Like in terms of like buying or selling it, because these are two different things.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
Selling specifically.
Like doing the whole thing
Selling?
again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
going through the whole
So,
process.
I mean, so if you had to do it, I think if that was your goal from the start, like your goal from the start, it's like I want to build a business that gets acquired.
hmm
Like for sure, when you build a business, you can make the type of relationship that would lead to an acquisition.
hmm
Um, but the thing is that, like, in terms of like easy, it's like as hard as, starting a business and trying to, be a $1 billion business. It's like, it depends how you want to go about building your businesses. But in terms of if it's easy or not, it's relative to, your goals.
hmm
Yeah. And like the amount of the acquisition and, like the terms of it all. So, easy is, it's a big, it's like, what does that mean, But in terms of like, if you talk about buying, I mean, it's just like taking loans and, I mean, there's a whole process. There's a lot of people that talk about buying businesses, but
hmm
in terms of selling, you would just need to structure a business differently.
How do you structure business for selling?
Well, for starters, you'd probably want fewer partners. That's the thing. I mean, and that means probably taking on as little investment as possible. So that's like the first thing. So, and then beyond that, it's like businesses that are being acquired, they have to hit different metrics, right? Like EBITDA, for instance, is more important. Whereas, like, if you're building to fundraise and to like build a $1 billion like a unicorn,
Users is everything.
then you want to focus on growth, right? So
There's also the type of relationship that you build as well, right?
Yeah.
So like if you build a business for the sake of being acquired, like building relationships with like big companies that can acquire you and private equity
yeah,
is also a good one. So then you have to go to private equities and you have to ask, okay, so like what metrics do you want? Like what what margins do you like? So it's like a different way of structuring. You would even want to have them as customers,
yeah. That's a great point.
Yeah.
You would target specific businesses as customers that would be your acquirers.
Exactly.
You'd want like that's the thing. That's again why we got lucky is because a lot of times these successful exits, it's from like a customer or a longtime partner
Yeah.
that's willing to take a bet on you because they've already like been able to evaluate you. So that's really important. Are bathroom breaks allowed here?
Yeah, we can take a quick break. Yeah. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. There's a lot of things happening in the business world right now. What do you think about the tariffs happening on China and on Canada? Let's talk about that. Armina, you go first.
I mean, it hasn't affected me directly yet. When I see the Canadian labels at the grocery store, I go for that. I try to buy Canadian. Yeah, I don't know yet. That's the thing. It's too hard for me to like really make an assessment.
What about you, Matt?
I mean the tariffs. So that's a big conversation. I mean, I feel like when you look at the topic of tariffs, there's like two camps. There's like the camp that's like, oh, it's gonna cause like massive inflation, and like he's gonna break like the overall economy. Then there's the other camp where it's like, no, he's not gonna actually do it. It's a negotiation tactic. He's trying to like bring manufacturing back to the US, so he has to go against China. And the reason why is because like if there is like for example in the COVID, you don't want all your supplies to be Chinese in China. And then if there's a war, like you don't want the person that helps you build your weapons to have all of the. There's all of that. In terms of me personally, I don't think it has affected me that much. But there's this whole debate where it's like, is it good? Is it not good? He's going to crash the market. My opinion on it is that what's crashing the market is not a tariff itself. It's like the uncertainty of it.
Okay.
Um,
Sorry to interrupt you.
oh, go ahead.
No, you know what? I think Mac's right, but I think either way, it doesn't end well for us in Canada. The tariffs are not good for us in any circumstance. It's not supposed to be good for us.
At all.
So, I'm less concerned about what happens necessarily in the States right now because it's sort of like a coin toss. But I know either way, it's not going to end well for us. It's not. It won't be
Actually,
better. Yeah, go ahead.
I could bring the counter, right? Like you could make the case that like any monetary policy that happens in the US has more impact than anything we can do in Canada for our own economy, right?
Yeah.
And if you make that assumption, then you can claim that like, he's going to use the tariff to get the Fed to stop quantitative tightening and do QE, and that I would actually have more impact on the Canadian economy than anything the Canadian government can do itself.
Why would that affect the Canadian economy? That would weaken our dollar.
So because the thing is that if like in this scenario where there's more money printing, then there's more money that's flowing to the system.
Oh, sorry.
And if there's more money flowing to the system, then there's more VCs that are going to be funding the startups, and then more people are going to get jobs. And then
you're in favor of QE, so more money, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, no, that makes sense.
And look, that might lead to that's what I mean, ending quantitative tightening and then starting QE, and that will the federal bank in the U.S. printing will have more impact on the Canadian economy than anything that the Canadian government can do, right?
Why would an investor that's getting more money in the US put more money in Canada?
I mean, that's pretty much what happened during COVID when there was like Shopify, for example, the stock went up, then they started to hire a lot.
No, but that happened in both countries though.
No, it happened in both countries, but the Canadian economy is going to benefit as well because most of the investments that happen in Canada are actually from the U.S.
For sure, but the Fed increasing the amount of money circulating in America, wouldn't an investor be like, all right, let me go invest those dollars back into America versus going to Canada to find investments there? Like,
when you look at like most of the LPs of the Canadian funds are mainly Americans, right? Yeah. So like these dollars end up in Canada and then they end up in our economy, right? So that's the case that you could also be making.
But usually that comes from both countries accelerating, not one.
And hold on, what Mac? What if the fucking cost of all your groceries goes up?
And inflation starts rising.
Yeah, what if who cares if there's like...
Okay, wait. I'm not fully done my point, right?
Go ahead.
The only thing is that if there's QE, then you might have
QE, what's QE?
Quantitative easing, sorry.
Quantitative easing. What's for the audience, what's quantitative easing?
So quantitative easing, that's pretty much when the Fed, the US central bank prints money. I mean, that's like the figurative term, but essentially they just introduce money into the system by buying U.S. treasuries and U.S. related assets. And that usually happens by, what they would do is that they're going to buy these treasuries and these assets from the U.S. banks and like the big U.S. funds. And then U.S. funds now, they just have a lot of cash. And the thing is that they need to deploy the money, right? So they're going to LP a bunch of funds. They're going to, fund infrastructure projects. That's kind of how it works. So it's like the central bank just injecting money into the system, right? So that's QE. And what will also happen is that they're going to lower rates, right? So like people can borrow, right?
Why would
Hold on, let Mac finish his point.
Right. So the point that I was gonna make is that the only issue with that is that might lead to inflation later down the road, right? And that's pretty much and that's why, like, for example, during COVID, there was a lot of money printing. So like there was a lot of QE, right? And then what happened is and that's what led to the inflation, right? And you can pretty much summarize like hundreds of years of economic history just looking at these type of liquidity cycles. And But I would say that's what, so, it might lead to inflation. But then the thing is that, okay, sure, if your grocery bills increase by, like 10x, if they're sorry, by like, let's say like 50%. But the thing is that if there's like 10x time more money in circulation, like, are we willing to tolerate a higher grocery price, right?
Mhm.
So there's also that.
So before I let you go, I'm gonna let you go on, but I have to rebut this, have a rebuttal to this real quick, because from what you're saying is from the tariffs that's making the quantitative easing happen to
I know
really,
that's an argument of why Trump is putting the tariffs.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the whole point of it is to create investments in the US, right? So how would that incentivize anybody to invest in Canada if the whole tariff is to incentivize investors to make more businesses and more manufacturing, warehouses, etc. in the US?
I think Mac's point is that if a byproduct of the tariffs is quantitative easing, then we would benefit from that. But yeah, like you said, it doesn't consider all these other things, and
Yeah.
that's kind of the question that I also bring up is like same thing. Like, sure, it might create more like money in the system,
Yeah,
but it's not like the tariffs aren't designed to benefit Canada at all.
at all.
There's no like Canada is not in the like in any sort of list of priorities for the U.S. when it comes to how the tariffs are designed.
Unless we become a 51st state.
Yeah, exactly. Which Mac might actually be down for that based on
Not really. I mean,
No?
I don't even think it's even
No, I'm
an
just-
opinion to have, because like it's not gonna happen.
Hmm.
I think he hasn't actually mentioned it in a really long time.
yeah, but it's
So
yeah,
it's
people-
just like over anchoring when it comes to negotiation. It's like, we do a lot for you, provide you with military, like with the army and stuff. We give you all this money, and like, you should become a 51st state, and then you kind of tease it, and then you see how people react, people don't like it, and then he retreats back,
But some of our fellow techies that are like in the States, some of our fellow Canadian techies would probably go with that willingly.
I'm hearing a
I
lot
will
of
make immigration
entrepreneurs-
easier, so
I'm hearing a lot of
Yeah.
entrepreneurs say that, actually. What I'm noticing, like a lot of even some past guests, which I won't name, have come to me and or not come to me specifically, but have said it to my mutuals that they would be down for 51st state. And
Bro, they would sell their
Yeah.
grandmas, bro, for a
Really,
U.S. passport. I bet.
it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think about what's going on with China versus America right now? Have you seen the viral TikToks of everybody
yeah.
saying, "You want this Hermes bag?"
Man, I got a Chinese fiance. I love her. We have these geopolitical discussions on a nightly basis.
Really?
No, not nightly, but we frequently, yeah, because she's pretty pro China. I would be too if I was.
Hmm.
But no, I don't like. Again, I think there's a lot of propaganda. It's hard to really know what to believe when it comes to like the media and what they tell you. I heard China's a beautiful place.
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah.
Yeah, you've been there. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And the food's great. People are really nice. All the Chinese people I know. So I'm not hating, but there's also a lot of sketchy stuff that comes out of there. In terms of like stories and how they treat IP and stuff like that.
Tibet.
I think like it's funny. I spent a few months in Mexico, and there's like entire districts of the city that have actually like become abandoned almost because Chinese goods have flooded the market to a point where like local artisanal shops and handmade products can't compete. And so and also like you see it also in like the automotive industry. Like you see Chinese cars everywhere except Canada and the United States. You see them in fucking every street. And they look sick, and they have like really cool names that are like really slick. And yeah, like I don't know if that's like good for like the local economy or the market. Hard to say, but like yeah, that's my view. I don't know if it's between picking the two of the lesser evils, probably the States is like a better partner.
Interesting. What do you think, Mac?
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it's like that's actually a good angle to it. For me, it's like I looked at it more from the state of AI. Like I think that China is really good at AI, and the US is also really good. Um, I mean, when you look for well, like ChatGPT is like OpenAI is like pretty much the leading there. Even like when you look at DeepSeek, DeepSeek's good, but it it's pretty much just like I mean, it's the process of distillation, so it pretty much learned from like the OpenAI one.
Mm-hmm.
So then we can conclude that we can conclude that like OpenAI and like I guess US still lead, at least for now. But there's a lot of great stuff coming out of China. China's really good. I mean, I don't have that much opinion when it comes to China in general. Um,
There's all these
Yeah.
stories about how China's like so doomed because of the demographic crisis, and like they manipulate their currency and they're like export driven. It's so hard to say, I'm sure in China they think the US is doomed. And so again, that's what I mean. Like it's just like
maybe.
the propaganda machine, and like it's hard to know what to believe.
The
Yeah.
propaganda machine is not a lie. Like,
Yeah.
TikTok right now
Yeah.
is all Chinese propaganda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I made a whole new TikTok account for Wit Media Studios, and if you haven't started, go follow that, please. Thank you. But on a fresh account, your TikTok algorithm shows you new things.
Yeah.
So the algorithm can learn what you like, right? My whole algorithm for a new account is predominantly Chinese propaganda.
Hmm.
And I'm like, huh. Like at
Like
first,
pro China content.
It's the bootlegs talking about, well, if you want to get this bag, Lululemon's made here in Guangzhou. Like now I know Guangzhou, and it's very
Yeah.
focused on that content right now. At first I thought, oh, it's because I maybe watched a few on my other TikTok, that's probably what's happened. But now seeing it on a brand new account means it's being pushed significantly. Like your first few videos, Will Smith, and then Guangzhou. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Maybe
what?
they know you went to China.
For sure. No, man.
Guangzhou.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's
So I'm
funny.
like, huh, okay. Something real is going on, So now I'm like, does America have a point with TikTok needing to be sold?
Yeah, I mean, because there's also the point where it's like, like the reason why the goods are so cheap is because they've devalued their currency so they can just flood the world with like cheap goods.
Yeah.
But then now it's like it's not super good because now the real estate market is, like not doing. I mean, there's like a real estate crisis in China. I'm not really sure. Probably Armin knows more about that than me. And then now it's like they have their currency and they're like, okay, so now we have to print more money so that to bail out our investors.
Yeah.
So like from what I've seen actually like from economic data, it's like they've been doing a lot of QE in China. Yeah.
And honestly, man, I've never seen a country have such a action first reaction to tariffs.
Yeah.
It's been something completely different.
They're pretty gangster.
I think it's a thing where it's like
gangster.
Trump was trying to get the attention from China right away.
Mhm.
Because like even when he was like negotiating with Canada, right? He's like, oh, like you have to like, like he went for the fentanyl. Then it's like,
Which was
oh,
BS.
I think it was
Yeah.
for China actually. I think 'cause China is the biggest.
Fentanyl driver.
Yeah, most of the fentanyl is
Yeah.
from China.
Okay.
So then when remember like when there was the 51st state and the negotiation and Trudeau was still in power,
Mhm.
they went from, and then Canada said, like we're gonna be careful with like our fentanyl stuff. And then
Yeah.
that was I saw this, I'm like, okay, he's going after China here. Because it was like he's going after China.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by going after China?
Because the thing is that China is the biggest, like when you look at like the fentanyl in the US, it actually most of it comes from China.
Okay.
So then it's like, okay, so then Trump is pretty much claiming that, oh, like you're essentially smuggling this like drug that's killing my people
Mhm.
into my country. So then you're probably going through Mexico. But the thing is that if I put a tariff on Mexico and if I reinforce security in Mexico, I know that you're going to go through Canada. So now I got to get Canada to beef up their security against the fentanyl.
Gosh, yeah.
Yeah. In the same way where
It's kind of contrived.
Yeah, it's an interesting conspiracy theory.
Yo, that's a crazy.
I don't
Did
think
you come
it's
up with that
conspiracy.
yourself?
I don't think it's conspiracy theory. I mean,
Good one.
you should just look at like where is the fentanyl coming from? You know,
It's not. Most of it's coming from Mexico.
Yeah, well, not coming, but it's being driven to the States through Mexico.
Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah.
but then if they reinforce the border in Mexico, where is it gonna go then? It's gonna come from the other side of the border.
It's
But
In
then
the
he-
same
but-
way,
But he
it-
wasn't saying that the Canada border is going to have the fentanyl. He was saying that Canada is the fentanyl driver and it's harming the U.S. society. But the reality was it was barely 43 pounds of fentanyl that was coming into America.
It was a red herring.
that's because he had to
yeah.
make the case for national security, because otherwise he would not have been able to. That I mean,
That's
it's,
what I mean.
Exactly.
It's
It's
just
the
straight red
same-
herring.
yeah,
He's just
it's
like,
the
yo,
same.
look at
It's the
this.
same.
Like,
It's the same reason why, like, for example, like when he did the whole tariff of the whole chart of tariffs, and then people are like, oh, like he's putting tariff on like a Penguin Island, right?
yeah.
But then it's also, but that's mainly because like, if he leaves one piece of loophole, like one of the fears that China is going to use that small island to like bring the cheap goods from that, because that's
Oh,
what they
that's
did when he put the tariffs initially, right?
So that's
So-
what you think. Oh, interesting. That's
yeah.
interesting.
So like, so when you think about it that way, you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Why?
bro, they're
he's
not
been
gonna move
trying
it to a Penguin Island. They're not gonna move it to a
No,
Penguin
but that's just to
such-
block the
such a-
possibility.
Bro, that's such like a
Just to block the possibility
come on,
in the
bro, that's
same way.
such a senseless argument.
you hold up. So your argument is that
It's
you
like I'll
think
just tariff
China,
everybody so that there's no loophole.
So
That's I think that's the Republican excuse.
yeah, so
That's the Republican like talking.
because the thing is that there's
Rebuttal.
been any tariffs on Australia, so Australia is people are looking to Australia in that regard, but the whole penguin thing doesn't make as much sense because it's like how could you register that and be taken seriously because there's literally nobody there.
I don't. Okay, so like, I don't know. I think the way Trump operates is like it's kind of this like touch and go, like you know what I mean, like operating like 10 businesses at a time. Like it's
Yeah.
like gangster, like kind of like the way we as entrepreneurs operate, right?
Mm.
It's kind of like touch and go. You're trying to move quickly, like just make progress and shit. And I'm not like I don't mind. I'm not against like that style. Actually, I think like you get a lot of things done, but I think yeah, like there's just like a certain lack of attention to certain details, and that I think whoops. At the end of the day, like the media is always gonna blow that out of proportion.
Mhm.
I think the penguin thing is just like another one of their gaffes. They've
I
made
don't think it was a gaffe.
Oh,
per
absolutely,
se.
because
I
they
don't
made
think it
bigger
was a
gaffes. Like they like the thing with like the posting the what is it the Houthi attack coordinates on the on the SMS,
WhatsApp, and
like,
Oh, that was
these
a
guys.
gaffe.
That's what
That was a gaffe.
So
That was horrible.
Given
That was
given
a
that
gaffe.
given that their history of making gaffes and much bigger gaffes, I'm not surprised that they accidentally put this random country because they use like AI to probably mass. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
process all the countries.
Yeah.
The guy probably had a PDF and he's like, "Hey, ChatGPT, can you like turn this into text?" You know what I
Well,
mean?
we could
Like,
disagree on that.
and then like, yo,
They
like,
just copy and paste it,
yeah,
and it's
like I could
all right.
totally, given the type of mistakes that they make, it's fine. But at the same time, they move really fast. There's a lot of progress being made. You could say it's good or bad. It's
Yeah.
progress nonetheless.
Yeah.
Like I'm not mad at that operating style. It's just like, yeah, like you it is a gaffe in the end of the day.
Yeah, and it wasn't WhatsApp; it was Signal. But
Signal,
I
right?
was
Yeah.
just saying because
Yeah.
it's such a flippant thing. It's like might as well have been WhatsApp the way he sent it out. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
you know.
that was a gaffe. Yeah, that was yeah.
I think
that
they're
was a
both
gaffe.
gaffes, bro. I
Yeah.
think both
I
of
don't
them.
think the other one was a
Penguin
gaffe.
Island?
I don't think that was a gaffe. I think that was actually intentional. It's like leave no loophole.
no, they're not.
Yeah, it's
they're,
like no
But
loopholes.
there's
yeah.
always going to be a loophole, though. That's the thing.
I
'Cause
mean, if I tariff everybody, there's not going to be any loopholes.
well, if you tariff everybody, and then one person, if you tariff everybody equally, but then one country has 100% tariffs, another country has 15% tariffs. 50% tariffs is not where everyone's going to go. So it's a loophole.
and the tariff math was broken anyways because they're
For sure,
they're
yeah.
using like trade deficit as like
tariffs.
as a variable in their formula. The thing was, again, it was just like quickly thrown together. It was I won't say it was ineffective because we yet to see, but like it was definitely like thrown together in a hurry.
Yeah, I feel like we're gonna have to wait like a few
Yeah.
months to see
Yeah,
if
let's-
this entire thing was.
That's why I'm not mad at
was
it because
good,
it's like
but
it could be
yeah.
effective. it's a coin toss, but like
I don't, bro.
Yeah.
Bro, we have
'Cause-
degrees in retail management. We know that this is
I don't
not
know.
going anywhere.
I don't know. Look, wait. So, like, let's take a step back. You also have to look at, like, like who's in this administration, right? So, like, like, like the Scott Besson, right? Is
Okay.
U.S. Secretary. You know his background, right?
Okay, yeah.
no,
Okay.
go on. Could you
So,
please?
Scott,
educate us,
Scott
educate us.
Besson is probably like one of the biggest macro hedge fund trader alive right now, right?
Okay.
Like he is the one that broke the Bank of England, when he was working under George Soros, right? Like where they made, like there's like this famous trade, like one of the famous trade in hedge fund history where they made, I think it was like $2 billion in a day by shorting the British pound. And like that was, and like it was 3 people. It was George Soros, it was Stan Druckenmiller, and it was Scott Besson. So like, these are, so like we're talking about like someone that understands trade, macro, geopolitics really, really well, right?
You think he's the one that's instructing Trump on how to
Definitely.
coordinate the
Definitely,
tariffs?
because like I don't think Trump necessarily understand the full extent of like the business. Maybe he does, right?
I
But
doubt
like
it.
Scott Besson, 100%. Scott Besson, 100% knows what he's doing.
I don't know. I don't think anyone really. I think everyone thinks they know what they're doing, and they let you know that they make you think that they know what they're doing. But at the end of the day, no one has actually done this very thing before.
No. Yeah.
So even Scott Besson, he has never actually like imposed tariffs. He's never been in that position. Sure, he's worked at a hedge fund, but
He hasn't just worked at a hedge fund.
But he hasn't worked. He hasn't held a role in office,
yeah.
and those are not the same things. And so, like, yeah, like obviously they're gonna make you think they know that
But
they
what's
know
the
what they're
difference
doing.
between that and the other people?
That's
right?
going back to like the propaganda machine. Like they have to make you believe they know what they're doing. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in that role. That's just simply how it is. They have to make the majority of people think they know what the fuck they're doing.
Mhm.
So, and that's just like a matter of like, yo, who's the most persuasive?
Yeah, that's a good point. Do you
So nobody knows what they're doing then.
They don't. Nobody really knows
Honestly,
what the fuck.
I doubt
agree.
it. From someone that
Yeah.
knows retail, like this getting at China sounds like the stupidest thing. Because if you think about all things that are made in China, like the hoodie I showed you guys, they're like, when you think about it, for years there's been a reliance on China to make products, to make almost everything in American homes.
Yep.
So to try and reverse that within months is crazy talk. All of America's businesses, all of Amazon, all of Best Buy, all these companies rely on their products being made in China.
Yeah.
It cannot be switched over in months. This is a multi-year period. And what's happening is that Trump has realized the difference between thinking in quarters and thinking in decades.
Yeah.
And he's just starting to hint at this because I think China realized this years ago that, hey, if we start making other products and if we start doing everything slowly but steadily, we'll gain leverage over their country before they know it because they're so focused on quarterly value, whereas we're focused on yearly, century value, that before they know it, and we'll be having all the leverage. And that's what's kind of happened,
Yeah.
So I think America's in a tough spot tariff-wise because I was just watching Cuts. You ever heard of Cuts? Cuts is a menswear company. They make t-shirts and men's jackets, things of that nature. He voted for Trump all 3 times.
Oh, really?
Now
Wow.
he just made a post on Twitter saying,
Fuck that.
Trump,
Please, sir.
I vote, please, sir.
Please, sir.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
I think the biggest issue is like, if I go on war with China, I don't want my, like the raw materials of my weapons to
For
be
sure,
from China.
but guess what? Guess what he
It's,
backed out on? He backed out on technology,
Yeah,
and microchips, right, and semiconductors.
that's the trade-off. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then guess what? Like, that's what society is based off of. But what he's doing is saying, oh, all the D2C people, all the e-com people, y'all can burn in hell, basically.
Well, what's not
Yeah,
even,
but then-
no, hold on. All you have to really do is walk through a shopping mall and take notice of all the products that are made in China And then think to yourself, okay, if there was a 25% tariff slapped on all these products, would this business still survive? And if you really understood retail and like the margins on these products, you realize like, no, like this place is, it's like dead on arrival.
Yeah.
So like it's really not that hard to see it if you just go through like some shopping mall or some retail atmosphere, that like these businesses are not going to survive an actual tariff.
Yeah, a lot of them.
Until they get to an agreement and then they drop the tariffs.
But who do you think is going to blink first, China or Trump?
We'll see. I have no idea.
Really?
I have no idea. We'll see.
But
They
what if,
both have strong leverage against each other. So
Yeah.
What does America have over China in terms
I
of
mean, they're the
leverage?
biggest buyers.
yeah,
They're
That's
the biggest buyers.
that's the thing. So China's export economy really depends on the U.S.
Yeah.
So like the two countries really have the same, more or less the same playbook, in a sense that China is subsidizing like a lot of businesses that sell within China, like so they're trying to increase
Mm-hmm.
consumption domestically. U.S. is trying to do the same thing, increase production domestically, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so neither of them have. U.S. doesn't have the supply capacity to be able to meet the demand,
Mm-hmm.
and China doesn't have the demand capacity to be able to meet the supply that they have.
For sure.
And so, like, both of these countries are going to suffer. The people are going to suffer, and all the other countries in the world that like are adjacent are going to suffer as well.
Until they reach an agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah, until they get to a deal.
What do you think of this play with their with what they're doing on socials, highlighting the fact that companies are marking up their products so heavily and that all the luxury items are made in China? What do you think about that? Especially with you, because we both have retail degrees. You know what I'm saying? So what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think like it's like in the end of the day, businesses are going to do whatever that results in like higher margins. So that if that means like having production in China, then like that's just like the logical business move. I think it's good that like there's more transparency around this now. But at the end of the day, like the cost of operating a business is like it's a lot. And I think a lot of folks like they're not necessarily looking at like the net margins. You're looking at like, oh, like the amount of material that goes to, you know, produce this shirt is like, you know, 10% of the cost or of the MSRP price. But you're not like looking at like the fully baked cost of like that product when you consider like the overhead and the lease and the employees and all that goes into a business. So I think like, yeah, it's good to like provide transparency, but again, like the propaganda machine, bro, it's real out here.
For sure. For sure. The funny part though, I think, is the luxury market.
Right.
Because the luxury market is insane. And what they're doing, of course, which is propaganda, you know, I've definitely ingested a good amount of Chinese propaganda at this point. But the fact that people are just realizing now that the luxury products, the quote unquote luxury products, are made in China when they thought it was made in Italy.
But there's good
Quality Chinese products.
yeah.
For sure. But people have been thinking this whole time that all quality is made in Italy.
No, and then here's the other thing. Chinese salaries are actually going up too.
For sure.
So like you could get really like talented tailors to work on create your garments in China as well.
Yeah.
So like I think it's a perception thing. Like you automatically think like Italy's better. That's also a thing.
Yeah.
Which might not always be the case.
Not at all. Like,
Yeah.
bro, there's actual articles of Italian companies sending Chinese migrants to Italy so they could have them do the last 5% of
There you go.
the made in Italy aspects of product development, so they could get that sticker, that tag to say made in Italy on it, even though it was never made by the Italian
Interesting.
people.
I was thinking about this earlier. I was like, yo, who is the authority that actually finds out where your shit is made? Like, who says you can't make it in China, send it on a random pack, like a shipping container to Italy, and then be like, yo,
Yeah, there's bodies that enforce
Oh,
that.
really?
Yeah. Bro, we know this. We have a degree in this.
No, but how deep do they go? You know what I mean?
Bro, yeah, bro. So there's regulatory
I actually
bodies.
don't know about this because I didn't really go into fashion. During my studies, I didn't really like fashion.
Got you.
Yeah.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
yeah.
So maybe that was more of my lane because I had the background in fashion, then went into retail. So yeah, there's bodies that monitor how much a garment is made to have you be able to say this is made in Italy, this is made in China, this is made in even here in Canada. There's things that you have to do to make your product made in Canada. You know, and with the USMCA, this is the same thing with cars too. You know, like only a certain percentage of a car can be labeled made in a specific country because most of the cars made in Mexico, not in Canada, and then goes into the US and then it gets put together.
Interesting.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it works. So yeah.
Oh shit. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's kind of how it goes when it comes to like assembly. And that's the thing with tariffs is that like people don't realize like he's tariffing Canada and Mexico, but the product will go 7 times between America and Canada as the product's being made. So it's like, how do you even tariff that properly? Because it's like, where is it originally from? You know?
So, that sounds like a shit process.
It sounds like a shit process.
Yeah, like I don't know, just intuitively, it sounds like maybe this shit should be built in one place.
I got you.
I think they had to adapt like years ago to make sure that it works out.
I'm just speaking from an ignorant place. You know what I mean?
Like logically thinking about it and looking at something, like, all right, having it go from Oshawa, Ontario, to Cancun, Mexico, to Detroit, back to Cancun, up to Oshawa, back to Detroit, and then having it being produced in Detroit, it's like sounds redundant as hell.
That seems wild too. Yeah.
I get what you're saying, but somehow they make it at a cheaper level, so it is what it is. You know, that's something I don't know the fine details of how they make that shit happen, but.
Right.
Yeah, it's a complicated logistic.
Complicated logistics. That's when it goes over our heads, you know. But where do you see the future of AI going, though? You know,
we're doomed. AI is just gonna take over.
Look, like right now it's just like the tip of the iceberg. But I think eventually what's gonna happen is everything is gonna be agentic. What I mean by that is like all apps are gonna not necessarily be like user interface driven where you're interacting with like some visual interface. Instead, you're going to interact with like an agent that actually does things for you. Whether it's like ordering food for you, scheduling your meetings, telling you about your inbox and so forth, right? And I think that's just going to like continue to compile to a point where eventually you're going to be like actually doing stuff for like a couple hours a day, and the rest of the day, your agent's going to be doing stuff for you. Whether it's like getting your food, doing your work, like scheduling your meetings, figuring out your plans, getting a dog walker for your dog, all that shit is going to be agentic. And I think like the way products are going to be built and interacted with, there's going to be a complete like platform shift. And then also the way like the future of work is going to have to change as well, because like you'll need significantly fewer people to be able to carry out various tasks and operate different businesses.
Yeah. What do you think, Matt?
I mean, so in order to unlock all of that, I mean, there's need to be way more compute. So there's that. In terms of like the future of AI, I don't know. I think AI is just gonna take over a lot more than we think it will. And I think that like, so in terms of, Armin was talking mainly about AI agent that carries different tasks. I think that we're going to hit this, and then there's going to be robots, and then robots are going to be able to carry tasks, right? And that's physical tasks.
Yeah.
And I think that's when, I guess as human, we're going to have to rethink, I guess a lot. I guess our overall existence.
Yeah.
that's when you know, because like if you think about it, like so, I go to the Bay Area like like pretty often, and I feel like the Bay Area is always kind of ahead in terms of like AI and like the things that they talk about. And like for example, when I'm in like Canada, right, like people are like, oh, like I'm just getting good at using ChatGPT, right? But then when you go to the Bay Area, people talk about like AI agent, right? That's what all the founders are working on right now. They all talk about AI agent. And then I would say it's a bit like frothy, where it's like, oh, like what is that? And then like, you talk to 10 founders and 10 founders have different definitions. And then it's like, okay, so then what is it, right? And then at some point you kind of get to a consensus and you're like, okay, this is what it is. And then that's pretty much, that has agency and like they can carry tasks for you. But the thing is that assumes that like you're going to have multiple types of AIs that are going to be really specialized at doing specific things. I mean, right now, even in the Web3 space, you see like AI that can invest, money. And that's because it's
robo
all
advisors too.
the robo advisors too.
Yep.
The thing that's interesting with crypto is that because it's all decentralized, like you can actually give money to the AI pretty easily, and they can trade between each other, which is quite interesting. But yeah, when it comes to, I mean, and that's, I would say like we're close to the agentic phase. The only thing with agentic is that the compute, right? Like the thing and that's the thing that I learned when we worked on Creator Loop, is that the quality of an image or even a video that's generated by AI is like, the quality of it is directly proportional with the amount of compute that it took to generate that image. So the more compute, so the more GPUs you have, the better your GPUs, the better your images, so the better your AI.
Where does GPUs come from? Is that like basically saying like
It's like
those-
chips.
Graphic processing unit. So
Yeah.
typically
Chips.
like they like
The stuff from China.
basically like the GPUs are like the
Or from Taiwan.
types of chips
Mhm.
that are primarily used for the computation that you need to do for like generative AI.
Okay.
So what Mac is referring to is like you need a lot of these chips in order to be able to like do simple problems with
Mhm.
AI, i.e., like image generation, text, so forth, right?
Videos,
Video.
audio
Analysis, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh,
go ahead. Yeah.
So what I was gonna say is that for this full AI agentic world to take off, like there's need to be more.
The demand of the GPUs
Exactly.
is gonna go skyrocket.
The
And then we can
power
go
to,
back to the
there's-
and then we can go back to
Back
the
to-
US China topic where it's
Yeah.
like
That's why
most of the so like when you look at AI, like you need the chips, and where are these chips mainly made? In
Yeah.
Taiwan.
yeah.
TSMC.
You know what?
So then, that's where the whole conflict is from. It's like, oh, like, we want
Semiconductors.
exactly, and then China wants Taiwan, and then US doesn't want Taiwan to go to China.
But I think that's more like
it's a big deal.
I think like in the end we're going to what Mac and I are saying is the same thing. Like it's going to be an agentic future, and a lot of jobs are going to get outsourced to the agents, and then eventually the agents are going to get manifested through like physical
Robots.
beings, which are robots.
Actually, even before that, I think it's all going to consolidate. Where it's because the thing is that the agents, it's assumed that there's multiple AI that carry different tasks,
yeah.
and then that's all going to get consolidated into one AI that does all of these tasks, and then you're going to have.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
robots.
That's assuming it's like a winner take all type of space.
But
I
it
definitely
usually
believe
is,
that it's gonna be a
'cause-
winner.
No,
take
I don't
all.
think there's gonna be one winner though.
It's always a few, like
A few, but I don't think
there was
Very
always, there was the Google had competitors,
and
Facebook had competitors.
here's why you won't have a winner take all, because a lot of AI functions are actually going to be gated by
government bodies.
government and big corporations, and what you're going to have is a black market of AI products and AI models, and what you're going to have is like jailbroken versions of DeepSeek and ChatGPT that you're going to be able to find on the deep web.
But Armin, the open sourced, like all of that stuff is going to get open sourced. So
No,
it's-
the thing is, the open source models only have a certain amount of parameters because they're open source, and like, but eventually, what's going to happen is like, ChatGPT is gonna their entire model is going to get leaked.
Yeah, the entire thing is going to get open. That's why I
Yeah.
mean, it's this whole agenting thing is going to get consolidated into one just really powerful AI that's going to eventually be open sourced, and then we're going to get the robots.
Yeah,
I feel like
So multiple agents, decentralized, then all centralized, then the robots.
but the thing is, I think the tariff question is like more of a 10-year problem.
yeah,
But either way, in the next 15 to 20 years,
yeah,
what Mac and I are saying is going to be a reality.
yeah.
Agents everywhere, and eventually robots.
Yeah, 15 I think is a stretch. I think like 6, 7.
Yeah, I think 15
Yeah.
is too long.
Yeah, I think 6,
no,
7.
yeah, you're
honestly,
right. I think the tariff thing and
More
the
like
energy
5.
situation, like whether we're gonna have enough energy and compute, like that's like a problem in the next like 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
That'll resolve itself. Like who knows? Maybe we'll all be on like Chinese AI technology. Maybe China's gonna win the AI race
Mhm.
because it's also like it's an energy race. Like Mac was saying, like you need compute and
Energy, compute.
and you need hella energy to be able to like do that. And like the biggest challenge is like all the barriers when it comes to like building up compute and like energy capacity in North America. China's like lawless, yo. Like they built like high speed rail in a fraction of the time for like the US to even like plan rail in California. Like they don't have as much red tape. They could just like build shit,
Yeah.
throw workers on that. Like, who cares about human rights? Who cares about workers' rights? Let's just build the shit and keep it moving, And so, like, that's like their advantage.
Actually, there and also like another advantage when it comes to AI that China has is the IP laws. And that's what like you've actually seen like and I actually have a small anecdote related to that, but that's what you've seen Jack Dorsey being like we should stop IP laws. And the reason why it's because the more you're the more constrained you are in terms of IP, the less data you have for the AI.
And the less competitive you can be.
Exactly, right. So like I was talking with someone at a major AI company, and then they were telling me that they essentially created this model that was trained on like illegal YouTube IP copyrighted data. And then the model was really good at making music, like really, really good. But it's illegal. So then they had to destroy the model.
This is interesting because
but then the thing is that in China they don't have that, right?
Interesting. It's like a macro versus micro thing.
Exactly. So in China, like they've been doing face collection for I don't know how long. They don't have IP law, so it's like they can do. I think that's something that they have in their tool house when it comes to lack of
That's
IP.
a great point, and I think that's a debate that we'll be having more and more here. Is should we have more powerful AIs that can do more for us, or should we respect human intellectual property?
Listen, that's gonna be a fight. Listen, like for people who have a legacy IP, like people who have like Ray Charles's IP, and have people trying to steal that, like that sounds insane. Like, that's what America's built off.
But
of.
if you look at it naturally, though, we're gonna go towards IP is gonna become less valuable.
It is, but the thing is that like I think that's actually a choke point for America, because America is based off culture, and culture is based off of IP. Like if you think about almost every form of American culture, Disney, Marvel, like
I think
it's all based off IP.
It's just gonna mean something different.
I'll give
personally.
I'll give you an example that's like an interesting parallel. So when the British and the French first colonized the Americas, and essentially when Columbus, or like when a lot of these like colonizers came to like the Americas, they wanted land from the natives, right? And the natives were like, oh, you want like this land? Like no problem, like take it. Why don't you have a cloud as well? Because in their mind, they're like, nobody could own land. It's fucking part of the earth. Like you have to find a way to live with it. You can't own it. And so I feel like IP is going to take that sort of like it's going to evolve in that way, where eventually it's going to be like nobody could own an idea, nobody could own a piece of art. It's for the world, and you can't own that. You could just create it.
I disagree, because in your example, one person doesn't own and one person does own, so the thought processes were different, right?
Right.
I think a more relevant one could be identification. Because before you used to have an own your own identification, and Facebook was like, actually, I own it. And the data of your identification is now a commodity, So and that's bought, sold, and traded. And culture and IP could potentially be, even though you own it, it could be like a fake version of that gets bought, sold, and traded, Because we can now go in and say, I want a Bansky style art mixed with XYZ with Basquiat, and they create a new piece of art, which is leveraging their IP, but it's creating something new. So it kind of skirts around that,
I just think like the ability to create is going to be so abundant
Yeah.
in a sense that like it's going to be hard to distinguish what your IP really is, and the lines are going to be so blurred.
Mhm.
In the same way that the Native Americans, like, they didn't understand like what land ownership is. I feel like eventually, like, intellectual property is going to be so blurred, and so much stuff is going to be AI generated, where people aren't going to truly value what intellectual property is.
So yeah, I think that this
And
is,
I don't like that personally,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
It's not something that I necessarily agree with, but I think just like with in the direction that things are moving, that more things are becoming AI generated.
Mhm.
I think intellectual property is going to take a backseat.
I just think it's just gonna change meaning. I
Yeah,
just think it's gonna just be different.
Bruh,
We're gonna talk about IP.
there's too much money in
different ways.
IP. There's no way that it's gonna let
I
it.
mean, there was a lot of money in music until LimeWire.
that's what I mean. I
But
think that
LimeWire got fucked.
no.
They
Wait, but
they
then
shot.
Spotify, and then they broke down the whole music business.
What happened to Spotify? You know, Spotify got bought over by the labels.
I mean,
See what I'm saying?
iTunes, like,
iTunes is owned by Apple, and they still get paid. See what I'm saying? Like,
but that's what I mean. But the margins from the CDs,
the platforms are taking most of the cut now.
like the margins
Before
from the CDs.
it was like
too.
HMV who's like taking a small
Yeah.
margin, but now it's Apple who's taking a substantial margin,
mhm.
right? And so like Max,
and also
right.
like the record label were the gatekeepers. Right now, there's no gatekeepers.
And that's what I mean. Like people are gonna, like, the big corporations, like the big IP holders, are gonna try to grip as hard as they can onto that IP, right?
Yeah.
But like they're not gonna be able to squeeze it in as many ways as they have in the past. That's all I'm saying.
I think I think so. I think what it is that they're too powerful. Like,
And
here's the
sorry, go
thing:
ahead.
they have. I think the people who own the IP, I think they have the power and the money to influence politics that would probably put a stop to it. You know, and then there'll be the jailbroken things like you're saying. That's when that'll happen. Is once it gets to a point, they're gonna be like, hey, Trump, wrap this thing up. You know what I'm saying? Like once Disney starts getting all the AI ripped off, which is already starting to happen, and you notice that there's not that many deep fakes of Disney products going out there. They're on that. They're on that heavy. Nintendo, same way.
I agree, but the
So-
thing is that like these big corporations are not gonna, like they're not gonna force like a developer to, like put some open source protocol that allows LimeWires to be created, that allows Pirate Bay to get created, So these things are gonna happen at a grassroots level, and like big corporations are not gonna be able
It's
to
like an
stop it.
endless game of whack-a-mole. I
Exactly.
think you're right, and I
It's
think
like you shut down LimeWire, we're
Yeah.
gonna create a new one. The
Yeah.
protocol is open source.
And I'll tell you, okay, like I recently started like DJing and spinning and shit, and I'm exploring AI music creation tools, and some of them, there's a lot of them, and some of them are pretty lawless when it comes to like the way they respect creative rights and things like that. And like the way I foresee it, they're gonna keep popping up, and there's gonna be new ones, and some are gonna shut down, and new ones are gonna come, and like we said, it's like an endless game of whack-a-mole,
Yeah.
to a point where the same thing the music labels tried to do, right? They tried to shut down everyone who's like pirating music, and they're like, yo, we can't shut down every fucking seeder on BitTorrent, everyone who's like selling, or everyone who's uploading shit on BitTorrent. It's a
Like
fool's
Mega
errand.
Upload with remember Mega Upload with the movies?
Yeah, it's a fool's errand trying to shut all this down, right? And so at some point, the industry is going to have to come to terms. And like, I don't know when that's going to be and what that's going to look like. But like, nobody was going to predict that like we would have an app on our phone that could play any song in the world, like on demand, right? Nobody predicted that
Yeah.
15, 20 years ago.
But then again, when you look at a record label, right now they do like the 360 deals where it's like they get like more out of the artist too. So there's also that.
Yeah.
But
that's a
that's
great
what I
point.
mean. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I just feel that my greater point is that we talk about IP as like, like the intellectual property in a piece of art. I think IP is just gonna change in a new. I think with AI, IP, the definition of IP is gonna have to change.
Yeah, it's gonna be like you sign off your music rights, then you your AI rights.
Yeah,
And then you're-
something like that.
I think one way to think about it is like what you can consider IP and essentially protect is like what can you extract from a human that's like the most human, like their voice you could probably protect. Maybe
Think so?
they're
Oh, you think so? There's like so
I
many
don't,
like
I don't know. I don't
AI.
know.
maybe that's what I mean. No, but the thing is like this is what I mean. Like I think there's an opportunity to like protect certain aspects of a person,
Yeah.
i.e., like Scarlett Johansson's voice, like the way OpenAI tried to like,
Take that.
yeah,
Yeah.
they tried to finesse that. I think that's like something that you can protect. I think someone's appearance is another piece of IP that you can protect, right? But I think like it comes down to like really human elements, right? I think like something like a drawing or like writing and things like that are like very easy to replicate, right? But eventually you're right, like it's gonna fucking take over like every human function and ability, right?
If you have robot that can draw, they can copy any drawings.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. We're in a weird time.
We're in the best part of like this is the thing. Everyone has to consider this, that like we're in like a peak time in terms of like we're not necessarily like the AI is not fucking us yet. You know what I mean? Like we're it's not like it's like kind of at the precipice, right? It's like right at the tip. It's like, oh, like okay, I can it's like I could kind of like understand what this is gonna be like.
Yeah.
But it's not that bad right now. As a matter of fact, it's kind of good. Like we have ChatGPT, we're able to like expedite a lot of things. We're getting the best out of AI right now.
Yeah.
And during our lifetime, we're probably going to continue to get like some of the amazing benefits before we go like full fucking Matrix, like Morpheus mode. You know what I mean? So I think like in the grand scheme of things, like we have a lot to be like grateful for. And I think AI is like only providing us with like benefits at this current moment.
All right. So as we're wrapping up, let's give our audience some useful tools to put towards their business. So like, what are some of the AI tools that you're doing? What are some prompts that have been helpful for you? Let's talk about that. What's been helping?
So like just some like sort of like sleeper prompts that I think are really useful. One, I use it a lot of times for like doing like things like helping me with my taxes. So I'll upload like a spreadsheet with like a ton of transactions and then ask it to like basically summarize certain things or give me certain information I need. I'll upload like a bunch of statements and then ask it to give me all the line items. So those are like it's like really good tools when it comes to like sort of like because we're in like tax season and stuff like that. I've been using that a lot. Creating custom GPTs is also really useful. Like when I was in Mexico, I created a custom GPT that was specifically built for me to get translations, but not just Spanish translations, translations in like a Mexican dialect. So I got this GPT to specifically gives me my translations where I don't have to tell it, hey, translate this something to me. I just popped it right in the chat and then it just gave me the translation and I sound hella Mexican.
Wow.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Okay, dope.
So those are like two things that were like that two kind of prompts or like I guess like sleeper hacks that I thought were really cool with specifically like ChatGPT.
Solid. What about you, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know. I use ChatGPT every day. I use it for everything. I guess like if you were to go through all of my prompt, it would always be like improve grammar and syntax of this. Like I think I canceled my Grammarly subscription after ChatGPT came out, which is quite interesting. In terms of like, I mean, most of my work pertains to building products and design and providing scopes to engineers. So like something that ChatGPT helps a lot is when it comes to generating ideas. There were times, for example, where it's like I have an idea and it's like, okay, what problem does that solve? So now I can go from like I have an idea to see if it makes sense in terms of like solving a specific problem. And sometimes it doesn't. And I'm like, okay, it doesn't work out. So really using ChatGPT as like a way to ideate in terms of like ideas, problems, business opportunities. So I use it a lot for that. Something that's also great is that like when you, for example, if you want to prototype an idea or like you want to scope something that's like really at like a level where it's like an engineer can just take that and develop it, you can use ChatGPT to help you actually like create some of the code, right? And like you can just pass that to the engineer and it's just like easier, right? So like the AI coding tools are like are getting really good. And it's really empowering for like non-technical people because like you can just have this random idea and then you can go on like, I mean, there's also this tool called Cursor.
Yep.
There's like Windsurf by Codium also, that's really good.
What is that?
Oh, it's
You
these are
just,
just
you just went from like
Yeah.
8, then went to like
0 to
17.
100.
You just
0 to
went-
100 real quick.
Like, I was like, all right, I'm with you. Grammarly, yeah, Grammarly's gone. Then you just went to like the roof. I'm like, bro, what the hell did you just go? You just took off, bro.
Don't kill me.
I'll slow down.
Don't kill me.
But no, these are all tools that pretty much just help at coding.
Okay.
Yeah, these are all tools that like if you have an idea and you can just like write a prompt and they'll help you write the code for it.
Okay.
And then yeah.
All right. So the Grammarly one was a good one, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure if our audience is going to be using code as much. Is there anything a little bit more practical that you got?
That's really practical.
It is practical for the coders for sure.
Let's see. Something that the audience would use. Yeah, that's all I have. That's all I use it for.
It's like, yo,
like if
if you want to use it, use it. Like,
yeah, just ask. No, it's more like I assume that probably a lot of like our audience for like runs agencies, and like for example, they want to start like digitalizing part of their businesses. Like ChatGPT and these tools are very great at doing that.
Tell them to start writing code.
Yeah, just start writing code.
Yo,
Yo,
you should
build products.
You should start writing code. You should start writing code.
Start writing code.
Yeah, there's nothing. Just get out there, write that code, bro.
Just write
Okay,
codes.
got you.
Yeah,
All right,
that's
for
good.
me, I actually use the email one a lot too. Whenever I'm writing an email, just copy and paste that into ChatGPT. At this point, they already knows to just give me a proper.
But sometimes I could tell when someone sends me a ChatGPT email.
yeah, and the dashes, is
The
usually
dash,
giveaway.
yeah, the punctuation for sure.
yeah.
And then sometimes it's like, why are you like summarizing everything? It's like I just, you know what I mean? Like like in an email, it always summarizes what the other person says when you tell it to
Yeah.
respond to something.
Ah,
Yeah.
true. That's interesting. What I've used it for, a good ChatGPT prompt that I've been using. I've been using it for clever responses to like friends and family, you know? Like
Mm.
when someone's going through something, like sometimes I'll prop a text in there and they're, oh, it looks like they do show empathy here. And I was like, oh yeah, maybe I'll do a little bit more of that. You know, that's something clever that I've done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Yo, have you used it for therapy? Because I know you believe in you're an
I'm a
advocate
big
for therapy.
Yes, I am a big advocate for therapy. I actually have. I won't lie to you, I have, and it's been helpful. But like, I still think a human is way better, of course. Yeah, but
me, and,
it's-
me,
it's
and, me and my lady use it for like on-demand therapy.
what
Like on demand. Like, yo, we have an
Really?
issue, we have to deal with it right now.
right now is like get you know what? Fire up ChatGPT.
Yeah. It's like
ChatGPT.
I swear to God, bro.
That's
Yo, we've been in
interesting.
the car like just like pissed, you know what I mean? Like not
Yeah.
talking, it's like, yo, you know, let's get an objective
The ChatGPT therapy.
Interesting.
and then just put it on the voice, right? And you could speak to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, I've never thought
Trust
about that
me,
as
it
a
works.
couples therapist.
Works very well. It diffuses a lot of situations.
Wow.
Absolutely. And you provided context. You're like, hey, I'm here with my lady and we're having this issue. And
Yeah. Then you'll be yelling at it. No, he's saying it wrong. He's saying it wrong. What it really is
no, you have to be, that's the thing too, because you actually have to be civil because it doesn't pick up on that sort of riffraff, right?
Oh.
So you have to be civil in terms of like taking turns speaking, but it does give you a real straight answer and helps for sure.
Interesting.
Sure.
That's a big gem. I feel like the audience is gonna love
That's
that
really
one.
good.
Salute.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Couples therapy.
Another thing, so sometimes like I would go on Slack and then I see like messages I don't really understand or like people just don't communicate really well. So like what I would do is that I would take a screenshot that I put on ChatGPT. I'm like, can you explain?
What the fuck is this? WTF is this guy saying?
What is he saying?
Or-
And then it explains really well, and I'm like, oh,
Paste the photo?
I get it now.
Is he stupid? You know, like, yeah.
Facts. I've definitely done that. Definitely done that too.
Yeah.
Definitely translations. That's a good one. Like financial projections. I've used that for sure. Like, I want to be a millionaire in a year. Break down what I should be doing on a day-to-day basis to get there.
That's crazy. That sounds like some Grant Cardone GPT shit, bro.
Yeah, I've done
That's
that.
like, yo, you know what I mean? Like, you know those guys who sell like get rich
Courses?
quick schemes?
Yeah.
I imagine they have their own GPT where you could be like, hey, what is Ty Lopez?
Yeah.
How do I become rich by next year? Like,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, but GPT gives good answers.
It give
Yeah.
decent
It's probably
answers.
gonna tell you like if it's like, oh, I want to be rich in 5 days. It's gonna tell you cannot be rich in 5 days.
That's
Unless
interesting.
You'd be surprised.
depending
Yo, that's a
on
good, that's a
Let's
good, yo, we
try
should
that.
try that
Let's try
shit.
that
no,
right
that's
now.
a good prompt.
Let's try that right now.
I mean, I
5
tried.
days, you try?
Yeah, because
Alright.
then it would contextualize what it means.
Say that prompt one more time.
How do I become a millionaire in 5 days?
How do I become a millionaire in 5 days? See what it says. Becoming a millionaire in 5 days is like trying to win the lottery on command. Not impossible, but wildly improbable without serious leverage, luck, or risk. That said, here are the only real ways to hit that target in such a short time frame. Selling something of extreme value. If you own real estate, a business, a high-value collectible, or crypto, sell that 1.2 million.
Super logical. It's
Um,
kind of annoying.
Yeah, I tried.
Yeah.
It's kind of
But that
annoying.
makes
That's
sense,
annoying.
right?
Fun. No,
Like,
that's not
'cause-
fun.
yeah, that makes
No,
sense.
that's not creative, and that doesn't help me.
all right, so
Come on, OpenAI.
So give me 5 options. It says, so number 2 is launch a viral high-ticket offer.
what?
Launch a viral high-ticket offer.
Okay.
Like package an irresistible product or service. Examples, $1,000 product, of course. Well, it needs a huge email list, viral content, and an ad budget. Well, duh. Get investor capital, win the lottery or bet big, and lastly is flip or broker a deal.
That's what I mean. It's pretty realistic, right?
I mean,
It makes sense to ask
Yeah.
ChatGPT these
You need
questions.
to do like a proper like go through it and tell it to give you instructions and like
Yeah.
properly prompt it.
on how to become a millionaire in
Yeah.
5
properly,
days.
like properly give it all the information.
This
of what
is
you're
not doing you or ChatGPT justice by
Yeah.
doing this like
Yeah,
I mean,
surface
who
level.
else would you ask that question that would tell you the real answer of how to become a millionaire in 5 days?
DeepSeek, the Chinese
DeepSeek.
The DeepSeek, yeah,
Oh, make sure
DeepSeek.
you're talking on the mic. Yeah.
DeepSeek will put you onto it.
It would tell you how to become a millionaire in 5 days.
Yeah, I feel like the Chinese propaganda is it might be more.
I would want to see more people
Again,
in China that becomes millionaire in
because
5
you know
days.
DeepSeek again, like we said, they have less IP restrictions, so they have more data.
Mhm.
They've already ate up more data, so the DeepSeek IP will probably give you a better answer
Mhm.
than the American OpenAI
Got you. You
alternative.
can tell this is my boys. Like we could just talk about this forever and ever. You know what I'm saying? For sure, yo. But listen, I hope y'all got some value from this. Hope y'all enjoyed the conversation, man. The hustle is what you can control. So control your grind and control your life. I'm Alex.
Armin,
Mackenzie.
That's the show, y'all. Peace.
peace.